Hi everyone, it's Gary Nicholson here for the Mountain Weather Information Service. This is your planning outlook video updated on Friday the 6th of October. And a persistent west or southwesterly pattern is going to dominate over the week ahead, maybe even beyond, with frequent prolonged falls of rain across the Western Highlands in particular. Elsewhere, somewhat drier, brighter conditions always away towards the east, and much of England and Wales will stay fairly dry, but some rain and low cloud will always plague the Western Mountains. Now this is total accumulated rainfall, this through until next Saturday the 14th, and some uncertainty of absolute totals, but the broad view is that Western Scotland will be very wet through this period. Don't worry about the numbers on this chart, we can see from the colour scale at the bottom where we're going with this, and it's heading towards 200 millimetres over the Western Highlands during this time, so very wet underfoot, some burns and streams likely to be flooding during this time, so certainly one just to be aware of there. Elsewhere, Western Mountains, Dumfries and Galloway, the Lake District may pick up on a couple of inches of rain, 50 mil or more. Snowdonia, somewhere around 20-30 mil is an inch of rain through that time, just from fairly frequent rainfall, but nowhere near what Scotland is going to see. But the rain shadow effect in a classic west or southwesterly airstream means that the Eastern Highlands may only see something like a half inch of rain, 12-13 mil around the eastern side of the Cairngorms, likewise to the east of the Pennines. So a really classic weather pattern at this time of year. Just to show you some temperatures, and this chart is around 4,500 to 5,000 feet in the atmosphere. It's still a bit higher than the Scottish summits, but we can use it as a general steer. The outline of the British Isles is a bit faint, apologies for that on this chart, it's really one of those technical maps, but we can use the general theme and take things forwards over a few days. Around 5 degrees on the Scottish Munros this weekend. It's a little bit warmer, relatively speaking, than where we've been a little bit below freezing on the higher Scottish tops during this week. I think going into the start of the new week, similar sorts of temperatures as west or southwesterlies dominate, but we might just see a cooler push of air just come through around Tuesday as fronts move their way through, so could just drop close to freezing on the higher tops for a time, which might just find some sleet or wet snowfall on the highest of the summits. Through the middle part of the week, though, broadly mild southwesterlies are in, so we're above freezing pretty widely. Just need to watch details later in the week as fronts just move their way through. We could find something a little bit cooler that does return, even just for a time, but I think the main theme looks a fairly mild one towards the end of the week. I'll run through the synoptic charts then just to set the scene over the days ahead, and always plenty more detail for your mountain area in all the written files updated every single day here at the Mountain Weather Information Service. This is Saturday then, a broad-scale westerly flow is in charge, fairly weak fronts draped across the country, mainly across the south of Britain and Ireland, but bits of troughs across northern areas producing some frequent areas of showers, particularly across western and northern Scotland, a few bands of showers as well running into the Western Pennines and Lake District. Drier generally towards the east, but a few of those shower bands just running their way all the way eastwards as we go through the course of the day. A pretty breezy day, a windy day, even gales upon some of the higher mountains. Lighter winds overall for Sunday. A brief build of pressure tries to get in, but it's a very weak affair, and it's a broadly westerly flow that once again stays with us. A lot of cloud remaining with bits of old fronts still in place. Dampness then on many western hills and mountains. Low cloud pretty extensive. The rain may persist at times across west and northwestern parts of Scotland, nearer to those fronts that are edging their way in from the Atlantic, so expect a pretty wet day in the northwest Highlands. Eastern Scotland that bit drier, cloud base is higher, and across the Pennines you might find some breaks towards higher levels at times, but a fairly dull day, I suspect, for many. A westerly flow stays with us, strengthening winds then through into Monday. The isobars a bit closer together, might be touching gale force on the higher Scottish tops through the day. Rather poorly defined fronts passing eastwards, just generally a lot of murk and low cloud, particularly across those western mountains. Around the coast could be down to very low levels. Higher breaks always more towards the east. Some of the higher tops may briefly clear in eastern Scotland, maybe towards the eastern side of the Pennines and the borders. Spits and spots of rain always most persistent across western Scotland, elsewhere amounting to very little. Winds may be a touch stronger again into Tuesday, more widely the risk of gales on the hills and mountains, strongest again towards northern Scotland it looks like. Fronts tangling their way eastwards, expect low cloud and outbreaks of rain then to move in. Western Scotland in the firing line for most of that, but some patchy rain elsewhere. May amount to very little again, much of England and Wales, something of a cold front having sunk southwards there overnight. May just lift the cloud base a bit compared to Monday, but again, it'll be a story of western hills and mountains being pretty shrouded in cloud most of the day. Looks like we're back to a southwesterly flow into Wednesday, which just draws in increasing humidity again, so the cloud sheet lowers pretty widely across England and Wales, and around that front across western Scotland as well, for that matter. Some uncertainty exactly where that waving frontal zone does come to rest. Where it does so, we'll see the most prolonged rain. It could edge southwards more towards the Lake District. I think it's at the moment focused around the southwestern Scottish Highlands, which may mean that the far north gets away something a bit brighter, but you wouldn't guarantee the detail at this stage. Again, as always, more eastern regions will fare best for being driest with the highest cloud bases. Looks a windy day though, with the risk of pretty widespread upland gales again. Just looking at the big picture in the second half of the week, and that persistent west-southwesterly stays with us, with low pressure centred towards the north of the British Isles. We're then dragging into the mix what will have been Hurricane Nate, which is going to affect the Gulf of Mexico over the next few days. By this stage, later in the week, it's moving out into the Atlantic as a mid-latitude depression, with some of its tropical moisture still inherently in the system, so it could just add to those rainfall totals as that gets drawn into the mix towards next weekend. A lot of uncertainty exactly what that system does, though. It could just bring us some further strong winds and heavy rainfall. It may just allow pressure to build a little bit from the south, so eventually low pressure systems could just get steered a bit further northwards. But I think for the time being, heading into mid-month, further strong west-southwesterly winds and regular heavy rain for western mountains is the theme. We'll update this video again for you on Tuesday, looking towards next weekend in a bit more detail. Thanks for watching, bye for now.